Well, hi everybody. Just check in on things right here, making sure that I have the sound right. I had not checked that on a few other things, and I'm hoping it was okay. Let me push this down and yeah, all right, we're good. Okay, so hi everybody, how are you? And happy, oh my gosh, it is Halloween. Yes, I am. Got a Halloween story for you tonight, or two. Kind of fun, kind of funny. Um, One of them is classic character of children's literature. The other one, not so much. But oh, let's get going on it so you can be on with your Halloween evening and answering the door, I'm sure. So, hooray for Halloween, Curious George. Yeah. Hopefully, most of you are familiar with the beloved character of Curious George, the little monkey who has made his home with the man in the yellow hat. And it is a book by Margaret and H.A. Ray. And their character of Curious George is beloved, oh, and a classic. So let's go for it and see what Curious George is doing for Halloween. Curious George. This is George. He was a good little monkey and always very curious. And one day, George and his friend, the man with the yellow hat, were on their way to a party at Mrs. Gray's house. Whoops. George could not wait. He liked parties, and he was looking forward to seeing Mrs. Gray. But when the door opened, George did not see Mrs. Gray at all. He saw a witch. "Don't be afraid, George," said the man with the yellow hat. "This witch is our friend." And the witch took off her mask. It was Mrs. Gray after all. "Oh dear," she said, "did I forget to tell you that this was a costume party?" George had never been to a costume party before. Inside, he saw more people than he knew. They were all wearing costumes. There was his friend Betsy dressed up like an astronaut. And was that Bill? Why did he look like a mummy? George wanted to wear a costume too. "I have some dress up clothes upstairs," said Mrs. Gray. "Would you like to use them to make a costume, George?" Mrs. Gray took George to a room with a big trunk filled with clothes. "Borrow anything you like, George," she said. "I have just the thing for your friend downstairs." George tried on lots of costumes. The first was too big. The next was too small. Another was too silly. And this one was too scary. At last, George found a costume that was just right. George was a rodeo cowboy. He wore a vest and pants with fringe. He even had a lasso and hat. If only he could see himself in the mirror. George was curious. Could he see himself if he stood on the bed? No, he needed to jump higher. George bounced on the bed just a little, but still he couldn't see. He bounced a little more and a little more. Soon George was having so much fun he forgot all about looking in the mirror, and he bounced as high as he could until crash. George bounced off the bed. He smashed into the night table and got tangled up in the tablecloth, and suddenly everything went dark. George heard people downstairs gasp. "What was that? Was that a ghost?" A ghost? George did not want to meet up with a ghost alone. He dashed out of the room and down the hall, and he wanted to get back to his friend in a hurry. He knew the fastest way. He hopped onto the stair rail and sailed whoosh down the stairs. "It is a ghost," someone screamed, and everyone turned. They looked scared, and they were looking at George. The ghost must be right behind him. George flew off the rail and landed plop in the arms of a farmer. But this wasn't really a farmer. It was his friend, the man in the yellow hat. Soon everyone stopped looking scared and started to laugh. That's not a ghost. That's a cowboy, laughed a policeman. That's not a cowboy. That's a monkey, giggled the princess. That's not just any monkey, said Betsy. It's Curious George. And everyone clapped and cheered. They liked George's Halloween trick. You gave us a good scare, George, said Mrs. Gray, and I'm glad to see you found some interesting costumes. Now, why don't I take your ghost outfit so you can join the party? After the guests bobbed for apples, lit jack-o'-lanterns, and played some party games, prizes for the best costumes were handed out. There was one prize for Betsy and one for Bill and two for Curious George. You were the best ghost and the best cowboy, said Mrs. Gray. And everyone had a good time at the party, especially George. Too soon it was time to say goodbye. Good night, George. Happy Halloween. And that is Curious George. Yeah, Happy Halloween, Curious George. I knew it was a short story, but it's kind of a fun classic that the kids have always liked. Curious George always just has such a positive vibe about him, and he's so much fun. And then, well, then there's this one. Not quite the same positive vibe, but it still ends up turning out to be pretty good. Actually, turns out really good. And so here we have The Halloween Tree by Susan Montanari and pictures by Teresa Martinez. Look at that. I love that tree. The Halloween Tree. The Christmas tree farm bustled with excitement. Carols played as families moved up and down the rows of tall pine trees, exclaiming, "This one is beautiful," or "This one is perfect." Looking at the fancy decorated trees in the front, one sapling grumbled, "I don't like lights. I don't like decorations, and I don't like people." As trees disappeared off the lot, the little tree mumbled, "I don't want to be a Christmas tree. I never want to leave this spot." The little tree listened to the other saplings as they buzzed with anticipation. "I can't wait," a sprout whispered. "Oh, colored lights," one sighed. "I hope I get a star on top," said another. The little tree grumbled, "I don't want to become a Christmas tree, and I'm not going to." As the little tree grew, its limbs became gnarled and twisted every time needles sprouted. Thoughts of being decorated with lights and ornaments made them turn brown and fall off. The tree looked nothing like the others. One day, all the trees on the lot disappeared, all except one. Coming soon, whispering pines. Eventually, houses began to appear, and with houses came families. By then, the tree had grown tall and broad, and its limbs were twisted and covered with strange knobs. One summer, the tree heard children's voices coming near and scoffed, "Ugh, people." "Yikes!" a boy named Ben cried. "That tree looks grumpy." "I like it," his sister Sarah said as she touched a branch. "It's so creepy. I dare you to climb it," their friend Tomas challenged her. Sarah pulled herself up onto the tree and sat on a cozy bough. "It's a pirate ship," she shouted and waved for the others to join her. All the children climbed aboard. When the neighborhood kids needed a hideout, the tree became their fort. When they played astronauts and aliens, it was their spaceship. And one foggy day, the tree even turned into a dragon. When winter came, the cold wind blew and the children didn't come outside to play, and the tree, with its limbs empty, stood all alone. On a snowy afternoon, the tree watched as Sarah and Ben's father carried a large bundle into the house. That night, a Christmas tree appeared in the window. I don't like lights, I don't like decorations, and I don't like people, the tree whispered, but it couldn't turn away. The next year, the same thing happened. The kids played in the branches until the snow began to fall. And the tree wished for lights and decorations and people, things it had never wanted before. One spring, the tree tried to make its needles grow properly, but after years of trying to stop them, they came in looking all wrong. By summer, they'd all fallen off. A few months later, Sarah and Ben's parents were decorating for Halloween. Their father looked across the yard and said, "That is one horrible old tree." "We should cut it down," their mother agreed. "Not now," the tree thought. Not now that my limbs are full of happy children." Up in the branches, Sarah whispered, "No, they can't." "We have to save our tree," Tomas cried. "I know what to do," Ben said and whispered his plan to the other kids. They climbed down and raced away to gather supplies. When they came back, Ben was already up in the tree, wedging a huge jack-o'-lantern in a nook. They all climbed up, and from the tree's branches they hung white and orange lights, cobwebs made from strings, spider webs, cardboard cats, and bats and ghosts and witches and skeletons. That night, the parents and all the neighbors gathered to admire the tree. The children danced beneath, shouting, "Trick or treat," to each other. "I guess I was wrong," the tree thought. "I do like lights. I do like decorations. And I do like people. I love being a Halloween tree." Trick or treat. I love it. And that's the story of the Halloween tree. That's what I have for you tonight. You guys, happy Halloween. Don't eat too much. I am having a great time. I know I will be having a great when I record this. I don't know that I'm having a great time, but I know I will be. I'm just babbling. But I'm very hope you're having a wonderful time answering the door, making the kids laugh. Oh my gosh. I always loved dressing up as Raggedy Ann and answering the door as Raggedy Ann and not talking or anything. So much fun. But tonight, it is Halloween, and I am in Oaxaca. Halloween has nothing to do with Day of the Dead. They just happened to come, well, they were grouped in, and I'm sure that I have a book that tells about kind of how they got grouped together, but that's for another night. So tonight, everybody, I hope you enjoyed the stories. Don't eat too much candy, brush your teeth, all that good stuff. Yeah, and have a great night. And until next time, keep looking for the beauty hidden in plain sight. It's all around you. But the first place you'll find it is when you go look in the mirror. And I will see you next time.
All we need is a place to be and a few good friends for some company. If you'd like to stay, you don't have to leave. We'll leave the lights on and the door unlocked. If you drop on by, you don't have to knock. We're happy to share whatever we've got.